Call to order the December 11th, 2024 meeting of the Elementary School Building Committee. This meeting is being recorded and it will be broadcast at some point by Stoughton Media Access. It's being held hybrid, in person and virtually. Virtually in accordance with the governor's executive order as a result of the COVID pandemic, which has been extended through March 2025. So we'll, in accordance with that order, we'll call the roll. When I state your name, whether you're in the room or online, if you can repeat it, and my eyes still aren't great enough, but I think I can see it. Dr. Baeta.
Aye.
Fran Brutnitti.
Aye.
Jake Dorr.
Jake just sent me an email.
Jake is actually waiting to get in, I think.
Yeah, I'm not seeing him in the lobby.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm on the phone with him. I think he was on the wrong link, so he's gonna check on. Yeah, did you hear him?
Gotcha.
Okay. I'll come back to Jake. Katie Monahan.
Here, I'm here.
Dennis Rigo.
Here.
Melissa Lynch. Heidi Perkins. Catherine Weiss.
Here online.
Steve Cavey. Diane Dolan. Sandra Gropey. Pat Yanikowski.
Here.
And Leo Fay is here.
Here online.
You missed me.
And Joe Buckley. Oh, he's Joe.
Oh, and Joe Buckley. How did I miss you?
I don't know.
Oh, you're down at the bottom. Yeah, so am
Right.
I. TJ Recupero's here. Joe Buckley.
Here.
Great. And Jake is here now, too. Jake, you're here?
I am here.
Great.
10 present.
There being a quorum present. Item number 2 on the agenda is public comment. This is the period of the meeting where we invite people to address the committee with any questions or comments. Nothing we can discuss at this particular meeting, but something we may bring up at a future meeting if it's pertinent to our ongoing discussions. At that, is there anybody who wishes to address the committee for public comment? And if you're online, because there's nobody here, hit the raise hand button, which is the third icon from the left and the icons up at the top of the screen. And Eric Rubin will recognize you. Eric, do we have anybody other than committee members online?
I don't believe so. We've got Lori from the school committee, and that's probably it.
Okay. Well, hearing no one. I see something up there that's
Melissa's waiting.
Just-
Waiting to get in. And we've got Melanie DePazio. She's
oh, Melanie DiBiasio.
just joined as well.
Last call for public comment. If anybody wishes to address the committee with questions or comments, feel free. Raise your hand virtually on the screen. Okay. Well, Eric, you're satisfied that we didn't miss anyone, right?
I think so.
Great. Hearing no one, we'll move on to acceptance of the minute. We didn't accept these yet? September 11th, 2024 and October 23rd.
No, I think we missed him. I don't think I saw
I
him.
think I'm the one who, yeah, I think I tabled them.
Yeah.
And I
don't think I sent him very early.
So 90 days is the September, October, November, September, October, November, November to December. We're at the limit. I know I reviewed those, but I haven't, back then I did, so. Do we have a motion to accept the minutes of September 11th, 2024 and October 23rd, 2024?
So moved. Joe Biden.
Moved by Dr. Baeta. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second.
Second by Fran Brutnitti. Jake also, but, okay, any discussions, changes? All in favor of accepting those minutes, say aye. Oh, actually, strike that, we have to call the roll again. Eric, can you just run through it?
Yep. got Fran Virginity,
Aye.
Jake Dorr,
Aye.
Katie Monahan,
Aye.
Dennis Rigo,
Aye.
Melissa Lynch, Heidi Perkins, Catherine Weiss,
Aye.
Steve Cavey, Diane Dolan, Sandra Gropey, Patricia Yanikowski,
I am abstaining from the September minutes because I was not yet a member of the committee, but I'm a yes for the October minutes.
thank you. Leo Fay,
Same, I will abstain just because I was not part of the September meeting, but I will vote yes for the October meeting.
TJ,
Yes.
and Joe Buckley.
Aye.
Thank you.
Great. Item 4, vendor invoice package. Do we have any, Eric? I didn't see any.
We do. We have one from October.
Waiting.
Yeah, I think I just let them
Did you
know.
see it, Joe?
Yes.
Oh,
We sent it with the invitation.
Oh, I didn't.
I can pull
That's
it up.
okay. I didn't, if you can just summarize it, I didn't see the invitation because I saw the agenda before it was
Yep.
submitted.
You know what? I'll show it. I'll share it on the screen again. So we've got a Vertex invoice for $1,905.75, and then a DRA invoice. This was for the environmental OTT. It was for
OTO.
OTO. Yes. OTO.
I think it related to when we were studying the bridges.
What was that one, 20 to 2,000?
That was for $2,660, for a total of $4,565.75.
Okay. So, those two, you said 46, 60, 75?
45, 65,
45.
75. Tongue twister.
Okay, and we're pretty far behind on those, sorry. Sorry, Carl, and sorry, Tim, Eric. All right, so vendor invoice package, any questions on that? If not, is there a motion to approve the total amount of $45.65 and 75 cents for the DRA and Vertex invoices as shown?
So moved, Jobaira.
Second?
Second, Katie Monahan.
Katie.
Great. So call the roll. Fran Brittany,
Yes.
Dennis Rigo,
Yes.
Joseph Baeta.
Aye.
Joseph Buckley.
Yes.
Catherine Weiss,
Aye.
Katie Monahan,
Aye.
Pat Yanikowski,
Aye.
Jake Dorr,
Aye.
Leo Fay.
Aye.
Who am I missing? Melissa Lynch,
She's not here.
Heidi Perkins, Steve Cavey, Diane Dolan, and Sandra Gropey. Anybody else present who I missed? I'm reading from the screen and not doing it very well. Great. That's
A whole list will show up. No, people see where it says 14, I think. If you click that,
I got everyone.
the whole list
Yeah, I
will
think
show
so.
up.
I got everything. Okay, great. That's a vote.
All right.
So item 5, project update. We do have some news. So, Tim, do you want to? I can start into it if you,
I can.
Okay, go ahead.
Did you want to talk about the reduction, TJ?
well, why don't you, we can get to that after we, so we have an article before town meeting, and I passed out hard copies here of what we submitted to MSBA, Tim.
Yeah.
We don't have it to put up on the screen, but there were a couple minor revisions from the article that was approved by town meeting last May. And I can explain those, Tim, if you want, or, so I,
Well, I can,
yeah, go
I
ahead.
I can explain them. So I think we mentioned, we talked with the committee in the summer that our plan was to, in order to keep the same project that the MSBA has approved, which is conditioned on, is a condition of their willingness to extend the schedule, which, as you know, they've given us an extension through April 3rd. We needed to keep the project the same. That was something remember we had that discussions back in June and July, and they were pretty clear that any changes to the project would likely involve us having to be disinvited from the program and apply to come back in and go through the process that we all know would take several years to do that, and basically start from scratch. So in keeping with that, but in a way to both preserve the project, given that we're about a year beyond the original budget assumptions, and also to try to find some reductions that to show people that we understand this is not easy, as an easy ask at all for Stoughton. Obviously, these days it's harder probably than usual. We looked at changing the delivery system from construction manager, which has benefits and has benefits that we felt were meritorious enough to put it on this project, like we did with the high school, to design bid build. And we had this discussion with the committee about what those differences are, and I won't get into that now. If somebody has any questions, I'd be glad to answer them. But largely, that does come with some premium. It doesn't come with a huge premium, and both DRA and us have discussed this, and we've worked on actually larger projects as design bid build, both DRA and us. So we were comfortable with that, and what that does is allow us to come to the public in Stoughton with a project that is about $1,250,000 less than what we had come with back in May or June. So one of the things that needs to be finally approved is by the MSBA. I've had preliminary discussions with them. There is a sense there that it will not, that will be something that we can accomplish, and that they won't have to re-vote it, because that would cause us to be put back in and cause a delay again. So, but the discussions we've had have been positive, so I expect that we'll be able to present a project to the town that is basically $1,250,000 less than what we presented in last year. But for the same project, that's the same. No changes to the project.
And Tim, just from our discussions, we can still, if we want, at least investigate construction management at risk. Correct?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, we can investigate it. I've really tried not to confuse it in terms of with the MSBA, but yes, we can investigate it.
Because for my own part, I really like to stick with it if we could, but, cost notwithstanding.
Yeah.
Having said that, there was one other small change that I inserted. I want to take blame if anybody hates it. We heard, anybody who went to the FinCom hearings prior to town meeting, and some of the other meetings too, we heard from people about how and there was quite a bit of discussion all over about how we didn't include demolition of the existing south or the current south in the project cost. We still haven't. But the language of the article, for those of you who have a hard copy, you'll see it's redlined. The article from last May, it identified the project as encompassed on 3 parcels, the 3 Fano Drive parcels. It didn't include identification of the South School parcel So we talked about it at the time, whether if we did have contingency left over at the end of the project and the select board or whatever policy board did want to demolish the South School, could the appropriation be used for that purpose? And it was arguably delimiting, since we didn't include the South School parcel in the text of the approved article last May. So I added that, the South School parcel, that's parcel 076-021-0, into the article. It doesn't obligate us to demolish the building, doesn't add any cost, but if we did have savings in contingency at the end of the project and some policy board decided that they wanted to do that, the appropriation could arguably be used for that purpose, since that parcel's been identified within the scope of the appropriation. Does that make sense?
Can I ask a clarifying question, or a statement, a question? So, by adding this, I apologize, my voice, I have a cold. By adding this language, there's no mandate that the select board, which is the typical policy board of the town. So if the select board, as the policymakers, were still undertaking, utilizing a private third party to take that down because they were selling the parcel, this doesn't obligate the select board to do anything. They still have all of their options available, correct?
Correct.
Thank you.
I think that's kind of where some of the wordage gets tough, though, because it's still the town's property. So what's going to happen with the building after the new school is built? And it stays on the town coffers, and then if the town does try to sell it, and an investment company, realtor, whoever wants to get involved in developing the property, finds some kind of contamination or has to deal with the asbestos in the building, that cost is all gonna fall on the town. And the sale is not gonna go through until that's resolved. I think those questions have to be answered before it just gets turned back to the town. That's part of the reason I got involved here.
Yeah, so the process of turning that property back to the town, it's more than just a snap of the fingers. So first, the school committee would have to take a vote that it's no longer school property, because the school committee has exclusive control of all buildings and property used for school purposes. Then there needs to be a town meeting vote. The town meeting has accepted the transfer from school property. This has actually been looked into by town council also. And once town meeting votes to accept it, to take it out of school property inventory, then control under the charter is actually with the town manager, I think.
Right, but it's kind of splitting hairs, TJ. It's still on the taxpayers, no matter what, whether it goes from the school department or to the town. It's still on the taxpayers, and those questions need to be answered. I think that having a better plan is going to give you better reception at the polls when you try to get this approved. If you just say it goes back to the town,
well, for our purposes, though, Leo, we're not even saying that. We're just saying that if some policy board, either the school committee, the select board, or both, actually, decide that that's going to be, I don't know, whatever policy they decide, sold, kept, converted to some other use. This change, in the article at least, was just intended that if demolition was included in that policy decision, the money that town meeting has appropriated could use for that purpose. The decisions down the road on what to do with it, I mean, that's beyond the scope of, we can certainly talk about it, but it's the policy boards that actually have to decide that. I suppose we could recommend something too, but I don't disagree, actually.
it just leaves a lot of gray, and those, I think, it has to be more black and white to get the yes and no votes. If you're gonna change the no votes, they're gonna want answers to those questions.
Hey, Leo, that's a good comment. I believe that the South School Working Group Committee had an RFP that went out at some point, or through the town manager's office.
Yeah.
It was an
I'm-
RFI. yeah.
RFI.
Request
I'm
for
not,
interest.
I'm not sure that anything came back. I
No,
don't
we
know.
didn't get any responses.
So
to the RFI.
so that's a telling piece of information, right? You know,
Yeah,
how many folks are in the business that they want to take over an old building, have to take it down, versus, and I know that this was an issue that came up at the high school project, but typically, a demolition project will be inclusive of asbestos. That's what I did in one of my last districts, is that when we went out for the bid, we said, we believe there's asbestos all over this building, so therefore, we believe the windows have asbestos, therefore, when you're taking down the windows and replacing windows or the roof, and so the bids came in with an understanding that the asbestos was there, and therefore it cost X number of dollars more to take it down. So in this particular case, with this article, giving, I'm going to guess through the town manager and then the select board, or vice versa, I don't know. If there was leftover money, that board could take these funds, put out a request, and see if the funds are enough, or say, and we're short $100,000, and get the $100,000 from operations or from free cash or whatever and get it done. That's typically the way I've seen it work. I think the question that Leo's really asking is, can we make a recommendation, a strong recommendation as a working group, as a committee, that if funding is available, we strongly recommend that the funding being used to take that building down. Because then the taxpayers at least have the group that is building this project. The only reason why we can't do it is because it's not on the same site, or else it would have been done like the high school. So, and we don't have to address that tonight, but those are some of the questions that sometimes we hear, is like, so what's going to happen? I don't want another armory. That's exactly the quote. And it sits there, and we have no idea, and every time I go to that side of town, I just know that it's there. And in that particular case, we all know the concern. This is a building that's tucked in, wooded area, off a main drag. Problematic. Oh, no, by the way, near a new elementary school if this gets passed. So that would be a reason why I would say, at some point, we should make a strong recommendation, since if this language passes, that means that we have until February to get to town meeting, or actually FinCom and everything else, to say, we've deliberated this, and we're recommending that if there are funds available, that building come down.
So
Which means you have to go to the school committee, get them on board first to release that, which I don't think that's going to be a problem. I can't speak for the committee, but in every other discussion that they've had about the South School, it's been that we don't see any educational use for it.
So all this amendment,
right, I thank you, Joe, for that. And the first meeting that I got onto, I think it was probably back in July, and there were talks from, I think, Tim, you had mentioned there were things that were on this building. I haven't seen the final plans yet, but there were going to be plantings on the roof and classes that could be held up there, and you were saying that those could be brought down to the ground, and there were changes that could be made, and these revisions that could be made in what the no vote won. And I think if we could take that and say we're changing the scope of the building, we can bring down some of the cost and apply that cost to removing the South School, the old South School. You would get people to understand that we're trying to change things to make it work for everybody's concern. And, I'm not getting into my personal side, but I just think we have to reduce the cost of the building to make people feel more comfortable about what the no voters did to win that, and apply those funds towards taking down the existing building when it's done, so it's no longer on the town coffers and the taxpayers. And I think you will win many more people's approval.
Joe?
Yeah, I was just going to say, this amendment simply provides the policy-making boards a better opportunity to be able to fund demolition should that be the decision. Without this amendment, that's not possible. Is that true?
True.
So really, deciding what to do with the building, this isn't deciding what to do with the building, it's just providing an opportunity to include it in the project if the money is available.
Right. A little more flexibility.
Right. So, I mean, further discussion should be had on the disposition of the building for sure. But without this amendment, this committee probably couldn't do anything about it.
We debated it at the time.
It's arguable, right?
I doubt it would have had, just my own take, lawyerly take. It just seemed like town council would look at it and say, that's not included. So now we've included it.
But with this amendment, it's clear.
Right. So, go ahead, Tim.
Well, I would just say, I think if I heard Leo's comment accurately, what he's saying is that we need to be more definitive about what the, disposition of that building will be. Which, of course, if we do reduce the article, sort of just on the basis of what I went over earlier, it may take away that flexibility to be more definitive. As it turns out, I didn't look at it recently, but I'm pretty sure that the cost of demolishing and abating that building, but there was a lot of investigation done around the hazmat around that building, for instance, and as part of the original feasibility, and that cost was about $1.2 million, roughly, as I recall. So, I think that's, the question is how, I think I heard the question, or the issue as being how definitive to make that decision around the building as part of this campaign or educational plan moving forward.
That's 1.2, that
Is
was
that
just,
accurate, Leo, or did I misstate what you said?
No, I think you summed it up pretty well.
So-
Thank you. It's,
Tim, that one,
you're looking into what Brockton ran into with that administration building they're trying to do for public safety right now. And they had $35 million of abatement that needed to be done in a property that nobody planned on.
so Tim, that 1.2 was just abatement, or that was demolition and abatement?
35 million was additional abatement.
No,
But
I'm asking,
this is
Yeah.
for South Street, it's a pretty small, we've got a very detailed abatement demolition abatement survey. And we kind of know what, and we've done that's a pretty common thing to take down old schools we did it at the high school as an example. So we kind of know what that is in terms of, so I don't think it's, so I think we've got a pretty good number on that. I can get it if you'd like it.
No, that's good. I hadn't seen that number.
Yeah, we have it. I'll get it while you guys keep talking.
But I think the wordage was just that the building would get turned back to the town. And that kind of struck me a little bit.
No, that-
It struck a lot of people.
no, Leo, we've talked about that, but that's for the school committee first to vote on, and then the select board, and then town meeting, and then the select board to either vote some policy on what to do with it after the fact, once it's no longer school property. So this is just on the construction end of it, or in this case, the deconstruction end of it. All we're doing is providing flexibility for use of the funds, the policy decision, we can certainly weigh in on and give guidance on, and I'd be, with Joe, you brought up this issue at our very first meeting,
Yeah,
what we do with surplus buildings.
right.
So it's certainly not new for this committee, and, you know, I'd happy to engage in those discussions.
Yeah, but just think of this, TJ, there's no surplus funds. And now the building just goes to the town,
No, but
and the town
that's,
sits there with another armory.
that's
as
what this,
somebody mentioned
that's what this change was intended to address. That's the only thing this change was intended to address. So we have, someone correct me if I'm wrong, there's about $6 million in contingency in the project cost, right? Plus or minus,
I think that's right.
right. So if, we'll use some of that for change orders, no doubt. But if we come in and don't touch that contingency, some of that plus or minus $6 million, in theory, if some policy board directs us, some of that $6 million, actually, I imagine all of it could be used from that contingency could be used for the demolition of the building. And actually, I think could be used for, well, I don't want to stretch, for at least demolition. That was the question that kept coming up. So, you know, we can discuss what we advise as a commit, as a building committee for future use, but at least we've handled the cost part of it, potentially.
I think that would be good for a lot of people to see, that could be handled that way, because I don't think that was out there clearly before.
No, you're right, it wasn't. I mean, we just didn't touch it. Actually, Joe brought it up, and I was the one that pushed back on it. So, I'll take full blame on ignoring the issue of demolitions. All right,
Not the first attorney that's changed his mind.
To clarify further, the demolition of the high school was included, it was
Right.
an MSBA reimbursable expense because it's the same site.
right.
And this is not the same site. So the demolition, the cost of demolition is totally on the town for this particular project.
Exactly.
Right, and I think the town, as far as the people, the taxpayers, would rather see it somehow at least thought of in the process, not just leaving us another armory, or leaving the town another armory.
Well, I think
I think
Leo,
that would,
I think, Leo, that you make a good point. The other thing is, I don't know, in my last 2 years here, since I've been here, I've never heard the word free cash. And capital planning commented more in all the years that I was at town meeting. And so what this does is actually give the board, whatever that policy board's going to be, the potential that this project, you don't even have to borrow that amount. You're actually borrowing less because there was savings, and you're going to use capital instead. It's giving them two options to take a serious look at. So if the board wants to utilize capital at $1.2 million for the purposes of tearing down that building, they can. If they don't have it, or they want to, they can take it off of the project that was already passed, if there was in fact savings there. So they have multiple roads to go, including not having to borrow any further funding.
Right.
I like the idea.
So the process-wise, the select board is closing the warrant for the February 3rd special town meeting on Tuesday. Tim submitted this article in draft form to MSBA. And Tim, I saw an email today, you submitted a revised cost, or was that just the same cost confirmed? You're muted.
You're muted.
Yeah, that was just to confirm the reduction of $1,250,000.
Okay.
They want the article, remember last time, the article was a certain amount and then it was reduced by $1 million for feasibility.
Right.
They wanted to include the $1 million for feasibility. doesn't affect the appropriation discussion, but they just want to make sure it's matching up to their, what we've shown them in the past.
I see. Okay. So as town meeting's February 3rd, we'll have FinCom hearings at some point, pretty quickly, I would think. Any other questions on this article? Comments? Thoughts?
Will it be a special town meeting just for this?
Just for this one, I mean, it'll be an open warrant, so people can submit petitioned articles if they gather,
They're out there.
are they?
Yes.
Yeah. But yeah, it was open for this purpose. I don't know whether there'd be anything else on it. And this can, even if, Tim, the article itself doesn't contain an amount, it's the motion that does. So even
Right.
even if MSBA doesn't get back to us by tomorrow, that Thursday
Yeah,
deadline
you know
was
that.
so that the select board can get something in their packets for a Tuesday meeting when they close the warrant. But,
Yeah,
so if they take an extra day, I don't think we have any big concerns there.
yeah, I think you can move ahead with it. I don't think that's gonna be an issue.
Okay.
At the bottom of the article, you've got the estimated cost. If that's technically part of it.
It is, I just wasn't sure that it was confirmed now that he says it was. So that, I don't have the first page of this. So the estimated cost on there, that's the correct one, right? That's the one,
The estimated cost on the one you have.
is 112, so
Yeah,
should be,
that's correct, yes. From the MSBA standpoint, it's another $1 million more because that's what the Form 3011 shows to include the feasibility phase.
but to the select board, when we submit this for the warrant, the estimated cost is fine at 112,
Yes,
okay.
yep. So the article doesn't mention a cost, you said for the motion?
Yeah, just for the motion,
Yeah,
okay.
probably would be good for the motion to actually state, that this is the cost less the already approved feasibility.
Oh. Good point.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I do. Okay.
Just so there isn't any confusion there.
I told the chair of the select board I would submit something to him tomorrow officially explaining the changes that we've made and so that they could get that in their packets, so. Anything else on this?
Yeah.
Any other questions? Hearing none, we do have to take a vote on this, of course. So that is item 6, which is really item 5 and 6 together, so. Is there a motion to submit the town meeting article as, well, we all have hard copies here. It's the identical article from last May that we submitted last May with an appropriation amount, an estimated cost that's now been reduced by 1.25 million, and the inclusion of the South School parcel, that's parcel 076-021-0, in order to allow for flexibility for the cost of demolition to potentially be included, to be used, to be paid for from the appropriation if some policy board directs us.
I would make that motion.
Great. Motion by Leo Fay,
I'll second.
second by Joe Buckley. Any other questions or comments? If not, I'll call the roll. Fran Brutinity,
Yes.
Dennis Rego,
Aye.
Joseph Baeta.
Aye.
Joseph Buckley,
Aye.
Catherine Weiss,
Yes, please.
Pat Yanikowski,
I,
Leo Fay,
Aye.
Katie Monahan,
Aye.
Melissa Lynch,
And Melissa,
Oh, she is here.
She just
Okay.
joined.
Aye.
Jake Dorr,
Aye.
Heidi Perkins, Steve Cavey, Diane Dolan, Sandra Gropey, and TJ Recupero votes aye. Anybody I miss? Great, that's a vote. I'll submit that to the select board tomorrow. Next on the agenda, public outreach. So the public outreach we do have to discuss, but for present purposes, Tim, I brought this up to you briefly a couple of weeks ago about how if there is going to be a town meeting coming up, we should talk about some sort of public forum, maybe in January, maybe.
Makes sense. You want to try to set a date now?
If we're comfortable doing that. So February 3rd is the town meeting. We could do it, I suppose we could do it virtually or in person. Or both, yeah.
We have done both, I mean, lately, but it's up to you guys, I mean, it might not be bad to do it in person. If we thought we could get the message out.
Any thoughts from anyone on when we should do it and content? If you have any thoughts on content also.
Mr. Chairman?
Yeah, please.
I just had one. One of the things that I was thinking about, and I think there's a cost to this, so I wouldn't need to get DRA to probably give us some information, Carl, through you. We had the large new building look, what do we call that? The placard, the map, the boards. The boards have, we now have new information in terms of dates and all of that. So we were wondering what the cost would be to get about 10 or 11 of those. And the reason is, we would like to post them at Town Hall, the public library, all of our schools, senior center, just put it out there, and then we would put our own QR code that would send it to a place where you can ask questions and/or the district site where you can go learn about the project if you want. So, and again, we'd have to ask permission at Town Hall and the library and all that, but the idea is to just really, every time you walk into one of these public buildings, it's one of the first things that you see. And then we could always add to it information around a town meeting and a vote. So we could put the town meeting on there as an attachment, so we're not destroying the boards over and over again because of the dates that are on them. The only other request that I would have, or idea to consider, would be we probably should get a few people together for a local cable show. There's a constant cable show that's out there, and I think we just need to have our own that we can tape for maybe 30-minute show, 25-minute show, nothing that's too deep. And then the third thing would be the idea of the road show, with making sure that every time we do have a road show that we consider a snow day. I would also ask this committee, and this just came up, I would ask this committee to consider a request for a second date for the town meeting because of weather. In other words, if February 3rd comes and there's snow and everything's closed, we're done.
Yeah, good point.
So I would ask that through to you, TJ, that we ask select board that, and I don't know if it's already too late or not to ask that question, but because of the Warrens opening and closing, but I'm going to guess that if they wanted to add a second date, that I don't think that violates anything, but maybe it does. I'm not an attorney, so I don't play one on TV either.
I didn't see the warrant, whether they opened it for more than a day or not. That's a good point.
I'm just
though.
worried about, it's snow season in
Right.
February. Somebody else brought this up to me. It's not my idea.
Yep.
although I'll take the credit since I haven't been taking a lot of credit recently, so, sorry, it was a joke. My point is, the second date would be great, thank you.
Good point. I'll ask. Jeff Pickett, I see has his hand raised.
Hi, I just wanted to provide some dates to avoid. I was looking at our district calendar, and there is a parenting workshop for elementary parents on January 7th that takes place at the Wilkins, so I think we should avoid January 7th. And the middle school is hosting its concerts on January 8th, 15th, and the 22nd. That would use the high school auditorium. Not sure how much overlap there would be with parents, but still it's a considerable amount of people will be attending those events that wouldn't be available to attend a forum for us.
Thanks, Jeff. So on the where
Jake,
part.
He just said that there's a redistricting committee too on the 9th.
Okay. On the where part, should we have it at the South School if we have a public forum? We've always had, I mean, people who see that building have always been sort of compelled more so than just talking about it, so that'd be my thought, but I throw it out to.
I would say yes, have it in the cafeteria and then have tours.
All right,
Maybe, invite people to come there to have that meeting.
great.
But also to Jeffrey's calendar, are those also opportunities for public outreach nights that, should we have people available or sponsor some of these things that are going on to be out in the public?
Yeah, so our next meeting is, just for food for thought also, second Wednesday in January is what? January 8th, so our next meeting is January 8th. Not sure when FinCom's gonna be, that would be an important question too. And we'll have probably FinCom and the municipal operations, regulations, whoever else is gonna hear it, probably on the same night, I would guess. There's a few hands raised, why don't I go left to right? Pat Yanakowski.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I would just ask that the building committee outreach be coordinated with the working group outreach, because we had expressed some interest in doing some road shows also, but obviously we don't want to conflict or step on toes or whatever. So if someone from this committee could interface with John Antavino, who's the chairperson of the working group, I think that would make things easier. Also, I just wanted to update that our narrative is coming out very soon. We've already the executive summary, but the longer narrative is coming out very soon.
That's a town manager's working group. I've seen that. It's excellent, actually. I think they did a really nice job. I'm on the working group also, but I've been more hands-off than anything, so thanks, Pat. Jake, you had a comment or question?
Yeah, couple just really quick things. We did receive some feedback when we've done things at the South. I'm happy to host at the South. I think it's good to get people to the South. I've said all along I'm happy to do tours there. We did get feedback one of the last times, I don't remember when, but around not being in other places at town. And when we do things at the South, occasionally we get a huge draw from the South community, which is not necessarily our intended audience. So just food for thought that we could definitely host something there, and I want to get people to the building, but I don't know if that's necessarily where the most outreach needs to occur. So just something to throw out there to the community. I know that Dr. B and I spent some time when we did that video there as well, so that is on the internet as well and has over 1,000 views. I did see that the other day. Dr. B is a celebrity. So the other thing really quickly is in terms of like just dates, I know Jeff said a couple of them. I put a couple other ones in the chat as well. There's like a lot of just like school-based events in January, which I do agree, like we could definitely have some reps from the committee at those, but there's a lot of the calendar is pretty packed, I guess, to Jeff's point as well. So just wanted to throw that stuff out there. Again, I've said all along, and the building committee can put this out there, as can the working group. Like, as long as it is before school or after school hours, I'm happy to walk anyone through that building. I give the same tour. I've probably given it like 1,000 times at this point. Anyone wants to come, happy to do it. It just has to be before or after school hours.
So, Katie, you had something?
Yeah, hi, thanks. No, I was just going to kind of echo what Jake had said, that a couple things. I actually think also that it would make sense to have it at another school, because I feel like we already know where our support is mostly drawing from, and I think that there are pockets of the town in which we don't have support, or we didn't have a big showing prior. And I also wanted to toss out there that we have our Title I STEM night on the 30th, which would be a really great opportunity to have something in my building, where I know there was quite a lot of people who were no voters in our Wilkins community. So if we had some way of at least giving some updated information, that would be a really great opportunity. We typically have a fairly decent showing at our night events, so it might be something to kind of keep in mind in terms of targeting the Wilkins community. And then I do think we probably need to look at another school in terms of having the programming rather than at the South. As much as I know we want to get people into the South school, I think we're missing large chunks of the community by continuing to focus down in this area of town.
Okay.
Carl?
We're looking to have a meeting in January because it's prior to the February special town meeting, right? And that's for town meeting members, right?
Right.
In that sense, I don't know if there's an email list of those people could be specifically invited.
Yeah.
That would make it perhaps more appropriate to be at the high school than a central location, for just not make it exclusive for town meeting members, but to hopefully get a better turnout among them. And then we could focus on,
Like that idea, yeah.
the rest of the town in March and April.
Right.
Yeah.
So you bring up a good point. So this is for town meeting. It's not, we have plenty of time for more public forums between now and April, so that's the purpose. Who we invite, primarily town meeting members, but everyone, how do we invite them? We can email town meeting members, but ads, mailings. And then I guess the last 2 points are, what would the date be and what are we going to say? I mean, we could repackage our old presentation, but I think we should probably tweak it a little bit and tailor it to a new audience. Leo?
Yeah, I was just like, listening to what Katie said, I mean, that does make sense. There's a huge part of that. Like, how about the PTOs that are in all the elementary schools? Do they work together? Because I know there's always, like, as a business owner in town and stuff, you all the PTOs come in and everybody wants something and you're supporting everyone that you can. But do they communicate? Like, could you use the PTOs to get this message out? And maybe have it at the middle school, because we know the condition of the middle school, and get more people to come in there. host it there, but work on every PTO of all the elementary schools to get their people to come in and make it a big night.
My own sense of it is, we have to sell PTOs just like we have to sell everybody else, because I'm not sure we have them all on board yet. That's just my own sense.
But again, they have to come together as one. Somehow you gotta bring them all
Oh, yeah.
together to understand it's for all of them.
I only,
Their kids are gonna be moving
Yeah.
on into the middle school soon, and they
I-
want that done, so.
I only say that, Leo, that they aren't coordinated yet, so, that I know of.
Yeah, so Leo, I meet with the PTOs as an invitation to the PTOs, the LPAC and the CPAC. And I get on average, in the POPs, I get about 3 to 4 of them that come to our about every 6 weeks meeting. It's a very fluid agenda. There are some significant changes taking over at the Wilkins School with the PTO, per my meeting with them just a few weeks ago. That's one of our harder sell PTO and families, because that's a school that has been recognized for being that small little school of that side of town that a lot of generations of people stay in that side of town, for lack of a better phrase. It's also our most diverse community, which would also mean in some ways it's not necessarily 100% a voting pocket. In other words, the families are voting, but as a voting number, it's everybody else in that precinct that's a big vote, and was a big no vote as well. I think the only way to do it would be one way or another. I mean, I always put the new building on my agenda with them, so I can make sure that we have it. I could do a better reach out. I do have a parent forum in January that's already scheduled, which I'm sure this could be a topic. But it's not a difficult sell. It's just, it's very political for them to have to request folks to get on board on a vote at the same time, and I say this like at 10,000 feet, asking people for money who, on one end, might want to support the PTO, but on the other end, don't necessarily support the project. As one small, I think the group that has to continue to do what it's been doing is in fact the PAC group. I think they're the core of this. They are getting people on board that haven't been on board. They now have over 200 signatures, 2,000 signatures of, well, at least X number that didn't even vote last time. So they've got to make up the 600 votes. They start 600 votes behind. So you got to change 600 people to come to the ballot as yes voters on day one. So I don't know if it's as much the PTO as that is the PAC group, and I don't want to say that by putting more pressure on them, because they're doing a great job. I just think the PTOs is more of giving them information, and then they have to decide what they want to do with it. And so far, that hasn't been consistent from some of the PTOs.
Yep, no, I understand, Joe, and thank you. I would just think that they would work to get more people involved, and think it just might be a good outreach group. And if they're not responding, as, I mean, their betterment is supposed to be for the kids, and I know they work for their schools, but we all have to work for one to get it done, so. If there's a way to bring them together and just get contacts and get more information out there to make this meeting happen, I think that would be an easy marketing group.
So for dates, I took down some of them you said, Jeff, but I'm looking at the 3rd and 4th week of January. That's the 20th to 24th. I know there's 22nd was taken up. And I didn't hear anything the weekend. The week of the 27th, that's the week right before the Monday town meeting date. I think we're probably better off the week of the 20th. No? Yeah? So the week of the 20th, 20 to 24th. Any thoughts on dates that week? How about, I'll throw this out. How about Thursday, the 23rd?
That is the conflict of interest law seminar for town meeting reps.
Oh,
Hello?
can't do that. Friday, we don't want to
It's from
do.
5.
How about Monday or Tuesday, the 20th or 21st?
20th is
MLK.
Martin Luther King Day.
Oh, can't do that. How
And
about the
inauguration.
21st? Tuesday, the 21st?
Interesting enough, I have a PTO leaders meeting at 6 o'clock that night.
Oh.
So, piggyback on that.
Can we pencil that in? January 21st, Tuesday?
What time you looking at?
Say 7 PM at the high school? Earlier, later?
Just have to check on where we would meet at the high school. Based on sports.
Oh, yeah, right, that's
I
another
can-
thing.
I'm gonna look at
That
the
doesn't stop
sports
us from meeting. I mean, the
schedule.
fact is that I can hold stuff in the cafeteria and auditorium. It depends on what's going on in
Okay,
the auditorium
yep.
and the caf and blah, 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 blah.
So auditorium,
Jeff, we'll look at auditorium first. If not, then
I don't see anything in the auditorium right now. Let's see, so we're looking at January 21st.
7 o'clock.
7 o'clock. We are hosting a girls' basketball game that night
It's okay.
at 6 o'clock, and it's also night school, so parking might be hard to come by, but I don't think the auditorium is being used.
Let's pencil that in tomorrow morning, please. Jeff?
Okay.
If we could make parking be an issue, that would be a blessing.
so if that does work, can you post it on the website and at least get it public?
What do we call it?
Public forum,
Hate the phrase.
elementary school public forum?
Let's come, Jeff, let's look at a phrase around public forum and building committee and all that that can maybe be a sales pitch.
Okay.
And what else on that? So,
I will bring the hard hats. I will supply hard hats for everybody. So we can wear them to the meeting.
so Tim, maybe we can call a working group meeting for early January to put together some sort of skull session on the presentation.
You got one on January 8th, right? 7 o'clock.
Well, we'll have this meeting, so we can do this meeting, we can bring it up then, yeah.
I can do January 8th. I will be, I'll be remote because I won't be in the state, but I can do the 8th.
And can we
We
stick
want
some?
to set that,
Can-
what
can-
time? 10
7.
o'clock?
Well, we have our regular meeting on January 8th.
Oh, I don't have it on my,
The building committee.
the working group?
No,
Oh, the building committee.
The building committee.
Oh,
It's
okay.
not-
Yeah, I don't-
Set up yet, I don't think.
Can't meet in the morning, but that's okay if I'm not here. I mean, it is what it is.
Why don't we can arrange that on the fly, that part of it, but
I mean, it's up to you, TJ, but do you think it would be better if just a small group got together to put the presentation together, not the working group or the building committee?
well, this is, when I say working group, I was talking about the building committee's working group, as opposed to the Tom Coulter's working group, which is doing something entirely different. I don't know if you, so yeah, smaller group.
Well, whatever group we want to do, I think a small group should do that, only just because we
Yeah,
are gonna run out. I mean, we need to sort of make sure we are efficient around making sure we get it done.
right.
That's all. maybe get feedback from what should be in it from this group here even. But I don't think you want to just go out and redo the one we did, right?
No, I don't think so.
Or do we?
Well, there'll be some overlap for sure, but, I don't know. We can have a longer discussion on content. I have some thoughts. I don't want to, I mean, we could take another hour to talk about what we should be doing for that, but by and large, we're trying to educate people about the project still, and also explaining why this is a second vote after the first vote. Can we stick an invite in, I don't know if this is appropriate, in students' packet?
It's not appropriate for me to do it,
No?
not for me.
How are we going to invite people? We can email town meeting members, we can place an ad.
You can do it through your PTOs. They have all the political leeway that I don't have. The only way I can do it is if the,
We can advertise, though.
yeah, we can. I
Joe,
will,
if you can accept me to your next PTO meeting, I'd be more willing to come and speak to them about the importance of this.
okay, absolutely, Leo.
Pat, you have something?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. If you want to start lining people up to man a little table at some of these school events, I will happily take the Jaw Diversity Night at the end of the month.
That's the end of this month, is it?
Next month.
Next month?
But
Yeah, that's the public outreach part that I skipped over that we really do need to discuss, and that's my fault, Pat. So, why don't I get together?
So,
We've
can I
talked
ask,
about it,
just,
yeah.
just for clarity, so our public outreach right now is very centered around a town meeting membership
Right now.
right now. And then, which passed it just a few weeks ago as a support to the petition with 77% of the vote, which was higher than the original vote in May. Now, we don't want to count on them without asking them. I think a letter directly mailed to every town meeting member about the importance of this project coming up and so on and so forth, with some type of a coffee hour, get some cookies and coffee, I'm happy to do that. Host it somewhere, and they can come and, if they want to talk more about it, they can give their viewpoints and so on. I think we have good support at town meeting. I don't want to take it for granted, but I think we have good support there. I think the real issue is to start working in January and February for what's going to happen in April. Because it's my understanding that there are petition questions out there right now to try to get into this warrant around critical, very political issues that we as a town have undertaken in the past. So if those are true, and I don't know them to be true, then, the turnout on that vote is not only going to be about the building, it could potentially be about a lot of other things. Again, if the petition passes town meeting. Those other petitions.
April 2nd is also municipal elections?
April
like
1st.
Or 1st?
Tuesday, April
Select
1st.
board, school board.
Everybody.
School yeah.
Yep. It's a local election.
And there's some
so
turnover at each of those?
There's turnover on the school committee and about 3 or 4 people running.
Select
There's
board?
turnover in the select board, but there are, it's my understanding, 2 names currently running, one for reelection and potentially a new person. And then there's discussions of other political matters. We won't know that for a few more weeks. But that knowledge and whatever happens at town meeting is going to lead us to some type of a, well, I shouldn't say us because we're just an informational board, but the PACs and all that stuff, they have their own ammunition.
Dr. Marietta, this is Melissa. I do echo what you're saying. I do think that engaging the voters in January is essential because I think it's too late in March and April.
Yep.
I think we need to go to these events in the schools now that are organically happening, because we haven't necessarily been able to get into some of them or been as widely invited. So I think that's essential. I do think also that the South is pretty saturated in just some of the comments that were made before. So getting to the other schools, I mean, almost every school and the middle school and the high school parents, because it's a whole town voting, not just elementary. So I think the redistricting conversations are going to help, but I also think permeating in those areas are really where we need to look at, while also talking with town meeting, who, again, as you said, overwhelmingly voted much more so than they did even at the prior town meeting to move this forward.
So, Melissa, thanks for that, because I think I'll work with Jeffrey in putting together a calendar of events. I will then send out those dates to this working committee, to this group, and to any other, and to anyone else, and just basically say, can you give up 1 hour a week to attend this meeting at 6 o'clock at the Daw School? And we'll get some costs from DRA and some handouts, and we'll just push the table and push the information, and go from there. We'll just create a calendar of events for this group, if you will, and anyone else who wants to support the project.
I would agree, and I think the South PTO and I think that the PAC has done an extensive amount of outreach to other PTOs as well. So I think now with this new information, some of the new information, more clarity, hopefully this will turn some of that tide. But I think having that schedule would be helpful for all of us to engage as much as possible to get out there and spread the word. So thank you.
Will do.
Okay. So there's two parts, and the agenda reflects this, of course. There was a public forum in advance of town meeting, and then public outreach generally. I skipped over the public outreach part. That's more of the public outreach. In the public outreach category, that is a longer discussion, but just for present purposes, we're targeting, unless anybody disagrees, a January 21st, 7 p.m. at the high school public forum. Invites will be mailed and emailed to town meeting members. I have those if you don't, Joe. And we can set up a small working subcommittee to put together what we need to for, Joe, do you have any thoughts on that? How best to do that? Because I don't want to overload you with anything. Well, just logistics, who's mailing, who's writing, I mean, I can do whatever.
Yeah, so the biggest issue that's always gonna come with my office is I'm an appointed official.
Yeah,
So as an appointed official, I have to be able to, if I use anything within my public domain, I have to be able to reach the general public. So in this particular case, if we're sending out something to town meeting reps as an invitation, I guess the question would be, is that too specific? I mean, we would be inviting no voters because they're at town meeting, and yes voters. So I don't think that that is, I don't think there's anything illegal there. I just think we have to really walk that line. That's all. I mean, I'm happy to sit at 239 Chemung Street and lick envelopes up to 4 o'clock in the afternoon on my own time. So it is what it is.
it's only 168 too,
Yeah.
so it's not too many.
I will tell you that there is some really interesting research coming out in the last 2 years that people are really liking opening up mail again instead of email. It's really, really interesting. People are liking getting mail and putting their knife through it and saying, oh, look what I got. So, yes, I'm lobbying for the post office. That's a great job for 100 years, and now we know what's going on.
So why don't
the two of us get together? 'Cause
Yeah.
If we're looking at the 21st, we're mailing something out right after the 1st. Or sooner.
Yeah. All right,
We
great.
can also do a postcard, very simple postcard invitation. Get those printed out real quick.
All right, cool. I'll connect with you, and maybe we can have just an online, just a Zoom working group session, or, I hate that there's another working group out there, because now I gotta, but just so we can, make sure that logistically everything's moving forward. Any other thoughts on that before we move on? I had one other thing too, but I'm pausing because I'm absent-minded and I don't remember what it was. Sure, it would have been wonderful, whatever it was. Jake, do you have something?
Yeah. I know in the past we've sent information through, like, we've updated our communities from a principal lens when we were having informational forums. I just want to double check. I mean, this is really just a question for Dr. Baeta. We're putting it out as informational. Can we send those home? I know you was talking about getting things in people's hands. Can we actually get flyers into families' hands for save the dates for those events as well?
Sure.
I think they respond pretty well. Typically, I see a better response rate. I see Katie shaking her head. I see a better response rate when I send stuff paper-based. So when I'm able to.
Great. All right, I remember what I was thinking of, but it's not important. So this was more to Jeffrey, is that we do have a calculator for cost of the project, and we need, if we're amending the appropriation, that will change. But of course, that's dependent upon current rates and things like that. So I was going to talk to the town manager and see if we could update the estimate that we had for borrowing. But we'll want to update that prior to town meeting, because that will be among the things discussed, would be what people are paying. So I'll get that to you, Jeff, and
Sounds good.
that was my only new business thing, I think, pretty sure. All right, is there a motion to adjourn? Thank you, Fran Brittanetti. Is there a second, Joe Buckley? Second. All right, Fran, yes?
Yes.
Dennis?
Yes.
Joe?
Yes.
Joe Buckley? Catherine Weiss?
Yes.
Pat Yanikowski? Leo Fay? Katie Monahan?
Yes.
Yes.
Jake Dorr? Melissa Lynch?
Yeah.
Heidi Perkins? Steve Cavey? Diane Dolan? And Sandra Gropey. Great, thank you all.